if you were interested in the following question, does Fricker offer up a possible way of defeating epistemic injustice? What would she suggest we do? And I think she struggles with this. She shows that she struggles with this. Is the way we defeat epistemic injustice or get past it or remedy it, is it to point it out or is it to ignore it? And I think the literature is genuinely mixed on this. Does pointing out our the biases we have or the untrustworthiness of sources, does that really help get rid of these deficits, these credibility deficits or credibility excesses? Does it help this mismatch of credibility and rational authority or not? I think the literature is mixed on this again. And so is it better to ignore it or point it out? I think she struggles with this. However, one thing that's worth noting is that it might be helpful to study this notion of epistemic injustice, to point it out, to pinpoint instances of it, not because it sort of helps us epistemically get at the truth better, because I think it's unclear whether that's right, but it might be good to do it for another reason. It might, introducing these terms might let us help be able to categorize our experiences better, so that if you are experiencing epistemic injustice, you have sort of a category for it. You can understand it. You can understand what's happening to you. Or if you're viewing it, or if you're perpetrating it, really, epistemic injustices, it might be easier to recognize and stop if you have this concept, if you have this notion. And so, how do we defeat it? It's not so clear how to sort of remedy this idea that there can be a mismatch of credibility and rational authority. However, having these notions, thinking in terms of these notions, might help, especially the very people who the injustice is done to, not by necessarily clearing up the injustice. I think that's a good question, but just by allowing them to understand that they are experiencing an injustice might help. A related question, does the accessibility of the internet and the increased ability to speak out about different topics and experiences help promote epistemic or testimonial injustice? Promote epistemic or testimonial justice, especially since people are able to undermine traditional givers of knowledge, like certain news outlets, like the news on Facebook or on Twitter threads. And this gives more power to people who do not always have the same level of testimonial credibility by calling attention to some of the issues involving credibility. So the idea here is, what's the role of the internet here? And this questioner is suggesting the internet might allow more people to get information in ways that is more equal. So I think this is a great question. The internet has been hailed, on the one hand, as sort of the great equalizer of epistemic status. Everybody can sort of get their ideas out there and not be dominated by this like hegemonic news media or something like this. We can get the truth out there. So it's been hailed as this great equalizer for epistemic status. But it's also been thought sometimes to be sort of an insidious distorter of epistemic status. It gives people voices that maybe don't deserve to have voices. It might legitimate people who have very little rational authority. It might give them more credibility. And so I think the internet, and I think there's something to both of these. I think optimists about the internet think of it in the first way, sort of helping epistemic status be correlated more closely with rational authority. So credibility and rational authority would be closer because people would have access to much more information. Others think, no, it gives a voice to people, and it allows the kind of things that affect credibility without having anything to do with rational authority, allows those to play a bigger role. We should think about, I think in class it'll be interesting to think about how we should think about the internet with relation to epistemic injustice, whether it's maybe helping get us toward justice or maybe making it worse.